Like, so that's why you have transit. It differentiates. Now what I can't
Welcome back. We hope you had a refreshing break. We apologize, but there was an unexpected delay because of the rain and the food didn't arrive on time, so it will be here after this session is done and it will be served along with the dinner. The first speaker of the second session will be Ramesh Babu, a student from Chirag International School.
By the end of my speech, there'll be 225 new vehicles on the road, 750 by the end of the day. 600,000 pounds of plastic will enter the ocean in the next 18 minutes and 18 million in the next year. How many of you here travel by diesel vehicles? Raise your hands. How many of you here travel by petrol vehicles? Okay, yeah, you should have traveled by either one of them. So, you have emitted 132 grams of carbon dioxide per every kilometer you traveled over here and will be going back, and 120 grams of carbon dioxide for petrol vehicles. 250 acres of forests get cut down in the next 18 minutes, and 18 million acres will get cut down in the next year. This could have sequestered at least 450,000 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere if it wasn't cut down. These facts sound interesting, shocking. Well, I'm terrified and anxious thinking or even imagining all this happen while I speak in front of you all. I'm Ramesh Babu, and I'm a very ambitious, confident, and more importantly, concerned 17-year-old who has already realized and started to experience the signs of climate change. Back at my school, I've started my own club and started doing different activities, engaging the whole school community to bring changes. And I've realized that there are many areas in my school, near my school, and in our classrooms, everywhere, where we could bring a small difference. Talking about the facts of climate change, they sound distraught and alarming. Advancements in sciences brought better understanding of our knowledge about the earth. And modern technology has helped us understand and discover better more problems. One major problem which is to be focused on is increasing population with depleting resources. And then going on, there are alarming rates of climate change with changes in global atmospheric weather and atmospheric patterns. Due to drastic increase in these populations and advancements in technologies, sure, the world has become a better place to live in. But this also has led to a decrease in many resources, and they are impacting our climate. I've gathered a lot of data in just a couple of hours. I've read many articles and documents from well-published, well-known organizations. This would have probably taken a few days for someone in my parents' generation. well, they wouldn't have either gathered this much data or at least have read these many articles before coming to a conclusion. This is what we need to now understand. We need to ask ourselves a question. Do we know more about our climate? Do we have more data regarding the pollution? And do we know the sources and their impacts on the animals, birds, ecosystems, hydrosphere, biosphere, atmosphere, and most importantly, all of you? I would be lying if I don't know the answer to all these questions. So everyone must be aware of the recent calamities and climate impacts on our Amazon rainforest. And everyone, we're spreading this across all the online platforms, starting from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot. We need to and I'm pretty sure that you must have at least one friend or close one who have participated in the recent climate strikes. Well, this was me in my first climate strike. And I saw at least 300 young minds in just Hyderabad who wanted to do something, who are willing to do something and who are passionate about it. But this is what I thought. Now what after the climate strike? Do we wait for another one? This is where we have to change. This is where we have to change our thinking. How many of you here at least planted a sapling in the last couple of months? Show of hands. It's good. How many of you take care of the plants at your home or water them? That's great. Because last year, we have produced 36.1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This was the highest amount in the history. Just look at that number. 36.1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide. Isn't it hard to imagine? Well, I have an animation to explain you better and make sure that you understand what's happening to our atmosphere by producing and emitting this much amount of carbon dioxide. Imagine that those 4 taps are 4 different sources of carbon dioxide, and that waterhead tank is the atmosphere. And the water filling in is of course the carbon dioxide. So what happened? The tank overflowed and water got wasted. Next scenario. I've cut down on 2 taps or close to 2 taps, and guess what happened again? Water overflowed. But you must have observed that it took more time compared to the previous one. Well, now comes in technology. What can technology do? Bring in carbon storage. I've still cut down on 2 taps and I've pulled the plug, transferring water or carbon dioxide into another form. And this is what our technology can do. Technologies right now are advancing, and with better understanding of our climate and the pollution, we are able to absorb carbon dioxide from ambient air and convert into something like jet fuel, which is very useful. This is what our technology can do, and this is what we need to start using our technology in a more sustainable manner. And with awareness and commitment, we should be cutting down on as many sources as possible. With both of them, we can sequester, and also we can get down on the number of carbon dioxide being emitted. So we reduce on the amount we're polluting, and also we cut down using technology. So let's get down to what we know and what we have realized so far. We know what's happening, we know where it's produced from, we know who is doing it, we know why it's happening, we know which are the places which are impacted and what are the ecosystems we're getting impacted the most. All we need to start looking for is the how. So if someone says no plastic, how? What do? Someone says no air pollution, how? If someone says we want better biodiversity, how? We want more rainforests, how? We should start questioning, we should start understanding that we know so much about the climate change and more about pollutions which are increasing than ever before. So now with better understanding and more technology, we should put this into right use. And we should start questioning how. An incident in 9th grade during my environmental management class, me and my teacher were discussing about two words. Sustainable development. Didn't you hear this 1,000 times by now? Sustainable development by UN, sustainable development everywhere around you. Well, the question was, how do you develop yet be sustainable? Think again. How do you develop yet be sustainable? This caught my attention the most back then. And then I started to realize that this is what more researchers and scientists should start questioning themselves before developing products or developing technologies. And also this applies for our politicians as well. When they want to implement something on large scale, how are you being sustainable? I'll give you an example. We wanted better and more faster ways of transport. What did we do? We built modern vehicles. We have cut down on our forests and we have made better connectivity. And more importantly, we use fuel and gasoline. So what happened to our environment? We have cut down on forests, we have depleting resources of oil, and more importantly, the impact which we have created. So this is what we need to question ourselves about. How to be developing yet be sustainable. Don't misinterpret me when I say being sustainable as in developing technologies which pollute and the pollutants are sustaining. What I mean is that when the whole population uses it, when you're developing products or when you're developing methods or implementing them, you want everyone to use it, right? So when it's in that case, you have to make sure that whatever materials you're using, wherever you're using, how are you using, should be sustainable and shouldn't impact the environment. That's more important. So now comes the question. We know everything, or we know better about the impacts, and we know better about the sources, we know better about the phenomena, and we have studied a lot. Now what can I do? Another quote which caught my attention recently was, what difference is one bottle going to make? Just one bottle. We have drank so many bottles right now. What difference would one bottle make? Similarly, what difference just an individual can do? Said 7 billion people. It's very important that we realize that we are part of this equation. Everyone over here is actively participating and spending most of your time polluting. But my question is, why not the solutions for it? You have all the time, you have all the energy, you put in all your efforts, put your money everywhere to just pollute. But why are you resisting to talk about the solutions, implementing about the solutions? If you're relying on governments or other NGOs or other organizations to do something, well then that won't happen fast. And dealing with governments and laws would take a lot of time. And better and faster ways is amending the ones which we already have right now. Amending the ways we are producing them. Better technologies, alternative sources. We should think about all these and just not question or blame anyone. What can you do? What can you do at your house? What can you do at your school? What can you do at your workplace? All of this is important. And when everyone is part of the equation, actively participating all your time and money in polluting, then you should start thinking about the solutions for all of them. Every change and every individual can make a difference in making the product, producing the product, packaging the product, transporting the product, and using the product, and finally disposing the product. Everyone is part of it some way or the other. So it's very important that to balance this equation, every individual should be carbon neutral. It's very important that every individual participates. A tip for all the school students. When I started my club 1 year ago, there was of course resistance. Not many students joined the club initially, and then there were a lot of questions which were raised about what can students do about the environment, what can you do What can you bring a change in just a school community? But 1 year down the line, I could engage most of the students in doing something for the environment. I've changed their attitudes, or at least tried to change their attitudes. This is what school students can do. I'm not saying just waste your time on forming clubs, but if you formed one, you should be passionate about it and work towards it. And I noticed and I've realized many students have changed, and many of my friends have started to do something for the environment. And I'm very happy about that. So, time. Time is another factor which we should be really concerned of right now. The UNGA, when met in March, has said, the leaders have said that there are only 11 years left to prevent the irreversible damage. 11 years? Oh, there's a lot of time. 11 years, right? It's not like your exam, you're going to wait until the 11th hour to do something. It's climate change and you can't compete with it. And there's the other side, saying that, oh my God, there's only 11 years left. What can we do? There's only 11 years. Oh my God. So, people like that, I have an example. You know this company, right? Google. So, Google, we know that Google has revolutionized the way you search, the way you work, and the way you communicate, navigate, and even the younger ones in your family must be using Google and must be watching YouTube videos. So we can understand that Google has brought up an unprecedented change in the way we search, navigate, and all the products Google has developed and services that Google has developed. And all this was possible just in a decade time after their first initial public offering, or the IPO, in 2004. So when Google brought up such an unprecedented change in just a decade, we have about 11 years left. We need to be optimistic when we are fighting against something which we are completely aware of, but people around you are resisting. When Google has brought up such an unprecedented change, all of us should start thinking about the changes in your lifestyle, should start thinking about changes in how you eat, how you dress, how you travel. It's very important that now we start questioning ourselves. And like I told you, everyone is part of the equation. You can't blame the governments, you can't blame anyone. And you are also part of it, and you are participating actively. So it should be everyone's contribution, and we should make sure that we can do something in the coming years. We should bring a change. And all I want to say is, we don't need these climate strikes if you're not changing your attitude towards the environment. We don't need your climate strikes if you're not going back home and doing something, going back to school and doing something or discussing about it. It's not about holding a placard and going on the roads. It's about changing your mindset. It's about accepting. It's about what you can do. And we don't want technologies if they're not sustaining and they're contributing to the pollution. We need technologies, we need these climate strikes only if you're the one who's changing. We need to change, and we need to change very quickly because we don't have time left. And when you change very quickly, the impacts will be sustaining. That's what we need to look for. We should be a visionary at this point of time. And in this point of time, everyone should be contributing in the best way as possible. And everyone who is breathing, living, eating should start looking for technologies, to start looking for changes in your lifestyle, should start making amendments, to start making all changes, and you have to save and protect that one thing is common for all of us, our Earth. Thank you.